Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of We Table It. And just to let you know, today we are streaming live on our page, We Table It, and we're so glad that you could join us. So I'll first start by asking if you would like to like and subscribe to a page, you can go ahead. And there are lots of other topics that we've covered in the past. So anything that you're interested in, from marriage to really understanding business to finances, we've talked about that, and you can check out some of our previous talks. But today we want to talk about something that we think is not only very interesting, but very important to talk about, to raise, and to explore. And we want to do it today unapologetically, no holds barred, really having a fantastic, deep discussion. And so our topic today is leadership in Africa. And this topic comes about by a question we ask ourselves, which is, when will the youth of today become leaders of tomorrow? So as I get ready to introduce this topic, today you will see on our screen we're joined by one of our hosts, Vwaire, and we're also joined by a very special discussant today, somebody who's got a powerful voice, fantastic opinions, and a way of self-expression that is just mesmerizing. And that is Mr. Magnus Oraka. His page is called Woto Woto. I hope I pronounced it well. And Mr.
Yeah.
Magnus is based in Nigeria. So you're very welcome. If there's anything you'd like to say just before I go into an introduction, you're welcome to do so.
Okay. Good afternoon. It's 3 p.m. here in Nigeria. My name is Magnus Oraka. Like you rightly said, I own the Facebook page Woto Woto, and
Mm.
well, it's called Woto Woto because we say it the way it is. We don't Woto Woto in Nigeria simply means as it be, anyhow we carry it. We don't anyway. We just express it the way it is. That's what it's all about. So it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So great. I think what I'll do is really just get started and go into it. So, when talking about leadership and how this topic came about, as I mentioned, I was having a discussion with my co hosts. And what we were talking about are the leaders that we've experienced. We've had the opportunity to live in different countries, and we noticed that there's a pattern when it comes to leadership. So, in reference, we were looking at the topmost leadership, the people who lead countries. And what is it that we noted they had in common where we were? And we noticed that one thing that there was in common was really people who were very old, much older. And we then started talking about, are they capable of really leading the generation that's there now in the way that the world is changing? And so, just for some insight, I live in Kenya. And in Kenya, we had a president who stayed in his position from 1978 through until 2002. And it's only then that we started to get another president, and that's a period of about 20 years. And when that was happening, I was in my late teens. But what I can tell you from my experience and what I've seen, the leaders who were coming in as in that day, new, fresh leaders, new, fresh politicians, new, fresh voices. In 2002, a lot of them are still the same leaders, same faces, same voices that we have now, and we are in 2024. So, what does that tell me? And why do I think it's important to look at leadership when I look at this situation? It tells me that there are a lot of young people who are not getting the opportunity to break through into the spaces of leaders where they can make a difference. And because they're not breaking through into these spaces, we have people who are making 2024 decisions with 2002 mindsets. And for me, that's not something that's gonna move us forward. So I'd like to ask if there's something similar that happens in Nigeria in terms of people staying in government offices and government spaces for decades. which then reduces the room for new people to really come in and make a difference. What is your experience like in that? So here I am asking either Mr. Oraka or Eno, because you're both in Nigeria. My question is, leaders who stay in government for decades, is that something that's also common in Nigeria, as it is here in Kenya?
All right. In
Anyway, in Nigeria,
Nigeria,
it's
I
not.
beg your pardon, let
At
me
least
answer
we.
that. In Nigeria, we do not have.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I thought she was talking.
Yeah.
Hello.
I
Hello.
think go ahead. It looks like there's a bit of a time
Yes, we
Okay.
lag,
can
so
hear you.
you
Go ahead.
In Nigeria, it's not exactly the same. Even though we have leaders who potentially would have loved to have that same stay put mentality, it's not exactly the same because we have a constitution that stipulates that presidency must last for a period of 4 years and an opportunity to be re-elected for another term of
Oh,
4 years.
yes.
Now we have presidents who have exhausted
Oh,
the
yes.
opportunity of what the constitution stipulates for a maximum of 8 years, and we have presidents who have attempted to go in for a second term but failed to be re-elected. So it's not exactly like that that one president will have the power to make himself stay put for 20 years.
mm,
As a matter of fact, because of the multilingual structure of Nigeria, any person that tries to do that will immediately spark off a civil war. I don't think anybody can try that. Even with what we have, it's causing tension in Nigeria. Talk less of a president that wants to stay for more than 8 years. That would be terrible. But however, I don't know if I can still talk more or my sister wants
Stay
to,
for more than
so I
that.
don't
Yeah.
yes,
dominate.
please
Should I
go ahead.
continue?
Keep.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Now let's you see the whole spectrum of what you are talking about is why why do African leaders do not want to give way for fresh ideas? Now, when we were talking yesterday, we came to the understanding that when we were kids, our forefathers or our fathers told us that we were the leaders of tomorrow. Now we have
Mm,
grown into the tomorrow. Those people who told us that we are the leaders of tomorrow have refused to give way so that we can give our own contemporary ideas.
mm,
Now, when I was growing up, I was not opportune to have a phone. In fact, owning a phone is a symbol of class. Today,
mm,
even the woman that sells akara is with a phone. There was a time we had BlackBerry, and they felt
mm,
they own a brand until WhatsApp came and killed it. So as we move on, dynamism creeps in, and these are our leaders who are, let me say, old model, cannot, in fact, like you rightly said in your intro, infuse their old obsolete awareness or their old obsolete experience with contemporary happenings of today. Now, why these
mm,
leaders don't want to leave, I think, in my own opinion, is what I would probably describe as political myopia
mm,
and lack of trust. Now, for instance, in Nigeria, in a multilingual, faceted country like Nigeria, where we have over 375 ethnic nationalities, there is
mm,
this lack of trust. The Yoruba man believes that the only way he can get the spoils of governance is if he remains there and then channels everything for 8 years to his people. The person
yes.
who led this country before this misfit came into power is Vwaire. He's a Fulani man. In all the eight
Mm,
years he became president, his his policy was just pro Fulani. Fulanis
mm,
were in charge of everything. Fulanis were in charge of CBN. Fulanis were in charge of the military. Fulanis were in charge of everything. So I think it is this fear. And then when Africans get independence, they do not, like Nigeria, for instance. Now, when Nigeria got independence, we did not get independence as Nigerians.
Mm. You've frozen a moment, but I hope it.
Yeah, can you hear me? You can hear me,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
can
you're
hear me?
back. We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I
I
said
think we're having,
when when
yes, we can
when
hear you. We are having a
okay,
network situation, but
okay. When African countries got
please go
independence,
ahead.
yeah, when African countries got independence,
Hmm.
they didn't get independence as Nigerians or
Mm,
independence as Kenyans. They got independence like in Nigeria, they got independence as Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani. So the moment we became independent of British rule,
mm,
the Hausa man remained an Hausa man. The Yoruba
mm.
man remained a Yoruba man. The Igbo man
Very.
remained an Igbo man. And because a consciousness of nationality was not built in these people who struggle for independence, that lack of trust lingered on. So to leave power for the Igbo man, the Yoruba man will be feeling that, well, his interests will not be taken care of. So by and large, you find leaders who are champions of their ethnic nationalities. Leaders who
Yeah.
are champions of their ethnic nationalities. So when they rule, their ethnic supporters see these leaders as their representatives, not representative of
Exactly.
Nigeria as a whole. Now, something
Mm,
occurred to me when I was watching this AFCON match. We have
mm-hmm.
Hausas in the team, we have Fulanis in the team, we have Yorubas in the team, we have Igbos in the team, we have South in the team. In fact, the whole region is represented. Now, I've seen
Yeah.
videos coming from the north. Everybody is wishing Nigeria to win. I've seen videos
Mm,
coming from the Yoruba nation. They're wishing Nigeria. Hello. Same thing from the east. So when we are watching this AFCON, this Nations Cup, everybody's mind at that moment you're watching this football match, nobody's thinking Yoruba, nobody's thinking Islam, nobody's thinking Christian. Everybody's thinking Nigeria. Now, that is what
Yeah,
that was what was missing when we got independence.
Nigeria.
We
yes.
did not instill that national consciousness such that
Mm,
even if an Igbo man rules for 20 years, I don't matter, so long as he's delivering the good equitably, fairly, everywhere. You see nobody,
yes.
but you see now this old fool that has called himself president now has turned everything to Yoruba. Yorubas are in charge of central bank. Yorubas are in charge of army. Yoruba in charge of the judiciary. Yoruba, we can't continue like this. We can't continue
And
like this.
I
And
agree with you.
rather
I
than let me round up this point now. Rather
sure.
than these leaders to come present themselves as national champion,
Mm,
and because they present themselves as tribal champion, they further exacerbate the division along ethnic and religious line. So what we
yes.
have in Nigeria as an example today is people who are living in a country called Nigeria, but with loyalty, separate loyalty. Nobody's loyal to the Nigerian concept, except when we are playing.
Mm, okay. I see that where the network has just interrupted a little bit, but wow. Yes, it's coming back on. But as the network is reconnecting, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me shortly. One of the things that hang on. Yes, so we'll wait for our guests to jump back in. It appears that there's a bit of a network issue. But what a powerful way to start this discussion. And I think everything that has been mentioned that is happening in Nigeria is very similar to Kenya. And just to reiterate, one of the points that has really stood out for me is from independence. We got independence as a country, but within that country, we were still in our individual groups. And it's something that still rings true till today, where in Kenya, we've gotten independence over 60 years ago. But even then, our ethnic groups are important and we still have tribal issues, especially when it comes to leadership positions, and our expectation of these leaders. So that is something that is so valid and so important to recognize. Okay. So I'm not sure if you can see us now.
Hmm.
Sorry, the network seemed to interrupt for a moment.
It's the
But
network. So I can round up, right?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying is that because these leaders come as ethnic champions,
Mm,
they have this sense of entitlement that I am the only one who can protect the interests of my Yoruba people now that I'm the president. If I live
mm,
there, my people may not get the national spoils. So now that I'm there, let me flood my military with my tribesmen. So now that I'm there, let me flood the military with my people, with my tribesmen. Let me flood the central bank with my tribesmen. Let me flood the NMPs with my tribesmen. And at the end of the day,
mhm. So we're just allowing it to
It's a
load
network
again.
situation.
And this is where we're talking about our leaders, because there are certain things which we have leaders and we hold them accountable for, even something like our network, and making sure that it's working. So yes,
Yeah.
it's to explore leadership as things are sort of measuring out. But I'll continue to reiterate, and we'll allow our guest to come back in and make some more comments, just about how job division also ends up being something that is more almost ethnic in nature. And Eno, as we wait for him to come in, is there something you'd like to add from your experience of where you are in Nigeria and leadership development and how it's working?
All right. As I listened to Mr. Oraka speak, he said something making reference to the football encounter we had with other nations in the AFCON, and you see the way Nigerians are united. And this is not what is obtained normally, because from our experience here, when we, like he said, when we have someone from one tribe come in as a leader, what happens is that they establish every of the tribe's persons as heads of ministries, heads of departments, or heads of wherever they want them to lead. And there is nothing like a mixed tribe thing in governance. That we've been experiencing here. You asked a question initially where you said, is it what's obtainable? You've had a case in Kenya where you had governor, sorry, I beg your pardon, the president span for a very long time, like what we have in Equatorial Guinea, with the president currently, Teodoro Obiang Nguema. Yeah, that man has stayed for over 4 decades, just like Paul Biya of Cameroon. We do not have that in Nigeria. Because, like he said, our constitution would not allow this. And Nigerians are restless people, they wouldn't even take that. So, what we have in Nigeria is a recycling of leaders from one
Mm.
seat to another. We have them in governorship for 4, 8 years because, yeah, the tenure allows for repeat of 4 years. It's a 4 years tenure, then you repeat. And when they are done with the governorship, they move on to like what we have. The current president of Nigeria now, he was once the governor of Lagos for about 7, 8 years, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, he's now the president. And trust me, he's going to be using up his whole 8 years. Now, when these people are in power, there's no room for the ones that are below. Or remember when we were in school, they tell us that we're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And then we had people like Tinubu as the leader, as the governor of Lagos State. And here we are still without the chance to be a leader because he is currently the president of the country. So this is what we are looking at today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Eno. I mean, I'll reiterate that in Kenya, I'll just add on, our constitution finally was updated. So since 2002, we've had presidents come and go, but most of them do the full 2 terms. So it's rare for one to come in and only last for a term. So they'll do the 2 terms and then we'll move on to the next. And sorry, Mr. Oraka, as we were talking, again, the network came in the way. I just wanted to ask if you'd managed to complete the point that you were trying to make.
Put on the inverter.
Mm. All right. So I'm not sure if you were able to complete
Yeah, I
it.
think he doesn't know you are referring.
Oh, I was asking,
Yeah.
yes, Mr. Oraka, I was asking you if you had been able to adequately complete the point that you were trying to make earlier.
Put on the inverter.
Mm.
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you. Are you able to hear me? So yes, definitely having a network challenge there. But as he comes back in and the network stabilizes, we will reiterate the question just to get more information and sharing. And so that I'm going to ask you a question because when we look about at leaders, we've talked about leaders who stay in their positions for a long time. But as we're looking at the youth, which I still think of myself as youth, but my potential to shape the future, do the youth have that potential to actually step into really these powerful positions and shape the future of Africa? Can you imagine an African continent where all the presidents are in their 30s and 40s? Do we have the potential for that? And what would that entail or look like? You're on mute, Eno. And Osaro, I'd also welcome you to add any comment or jump in if you think of an Africa with leaders, the entire continent, aged 30 to 40. Do we have that potential to shape our future as a continent?
Sure,
Mm.
sure, we do. And this is why we are, creating awareness and advocating for people to take youth leadership seriously at this point. We are here to we can do to change the narrative. Tired of having people who should be resting, our fathers who should be retired and resting, being in the helm of affairs when we have the youth who are very capable of handling the affairs of the countries, the nations of Africa. Yes, I think we do have the capacity, the capabilities to do what we ought to do and be competitive in the global leadership space. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Eno. I'm going to share a thought of you that I just had as you were speaking. And that is from my experience here in Kenya, growing up with different ethnic communities. And oh, thank you, Mr. Oraka, you've just jumped in. when we're talking about whether the youth of Africa actually have the potential that we're looking for to shape the continent. And I mentioned, what if we had the entire African continent with presidents between the ages of 30, in the 30 and 40 age groups? And just to support that point and looking at leadership, in Kenya, one of our ethnic communities is the Asian community, because we have people who've been born here for generations as Asian descent, and they're recognized now as Kenyans and as our community. And in Kenya, what I've noted about this community and how they approach leadership, there's significant mentorship and experience. So a family who could be a family of running a business, they will mentor their children, and the children will get an education with the intent of being able to come into the business and grow it. And my observation has been, even when their children come into the business, they don't come in at a management level. They go through the business, learn it, understand it. By the time somebody is transitioning, an older person, the young person who comes in has the benefit of coming in with experience, and understanding of how it works, but then also education and new ideas that take the business to the next level. And I think that's an interesting way to approach leadership. So here, when I'm looking at the potential of the youth, why that came to mind is I'm asking myself, when we're looking at these youth that we want to take up leadership positions, do they have the experience, the mentorship, the training? Do they have some base knowledge so that when they come in, it's not just somebody who's come in and now wants to, of course, express themselves and do something, but they might not have that background to understand what it entails. What are your thoughts on this and the potential of the youth being actually able to shape this future? And I can see, Osaro, you've gone off mute, so it's a moment for you to actually share. Karibu, welcome.
All right. So you want me to jump in before our guest?
I can see our guest's network is loading, so you can jump in, and when he comes in, I'll invite him to jump in as well.
All right, that's great. So, good day, everyone. And I must apologize for joining the show behind schedule. All right. So it's just basically because my time zone requires that, certain things happen. However, I want to believe that there's been a healthy discussion going on, and got I got in at a point where I believe things have started getting juicy. All right, so like Valerie will say. All right, so
Mm,
I would like to make 3 points here quickly. All right, the first point is that uh, I remember Valerie, you talking about. You asked a question to Enor, and you asked her how the leadership is in Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken, and she gave a very good response. I would like to say that uh, I have been opportune to travel some countries around the world, and amongst those countries, I have been in places whereby they've been able to systematically conquer leadership. And when I talk about leadership, I'm talking about political leadership. Some of these countries, even if you put a goat as the head of state, the countries will still run fine. And that is because they've been able to build a system that requires that a leader leads in a certain way. That is not
mm,
the same for many parts of Africa. All right. And that is where our challenge is. And this leads me to the second point. And you know that I would always like to go academically and then slowly build up to our current discourse. Now, if we want to go to the theoretical basis of leadership, we find out that
Oh, apologies, Osaro. Family and work colliding, but that's all right. Once you've settled that, we'll get you to jump back in. and continue. When you settle, just let us know by unmuting. So I'd like to actually direct then the question to our guest.
All right.
And I can see.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to mute the mic because there was some certain noises in the background. Pretty sure
No
you
problem.
understand that. All right. So
Uh,
I was saying that generally we can approach the concept of leadership using some theoretical principles. And sadly, leaders of today who we are in quote asking to give way for the youths are manipulating knowingly or unknowingly these theoretical principles and using to suppress the youths. And this is what I mean. We have theories such as the trait theory of leadership and the behavioral theory of leadership. Pretty sure my able hosts can relate to this. So, the trait theory of leadership states that leaders are born and that
mm,
certain people are born for leadership. And the behavioral theory of leadership states that leadership is learned. And what that means is that leadership is a science. It is something that has to be learned and built upon to make a good leader. Now, this is what happens. In Africa today, we have leaders who are old that try to leverage on um, both the trait theory of leadership and the behavioral theory of leadership. The leverage on the downsides of both of them. The trait theory of leadership, they try to redefine what political leadership is. They try to
mhm,
make it look like for you to be a leader, you must have loads of money, you must be corrupt, and you must have what we call connection. And sadly, our youths of today have seemed to swallow hook, line, and sinker that these are the traits that is needed for a leader. It is a
mm.
very conscious and purposeful method that is being used by the so-called leaders we have in Africa today. And I'm making a sweeping generalization because I know that we've got some exceptions. But you will believe that most of them seem to be the people that is making us have this program, I mean, this show today. So the leverage on the traits, they redefine the traits of who a leader should be. And then the average youth in Africa seem to think, since I don't have this trait, I cannot be a leader now. And they start to develop these negative traits that makes it possible for them to be leaders, but only when they are old and corrupt. And then they also leverage on the downsides of the behavioral theory of leadership by, in quote, thinking that the so-called godfathers can mentor leaders. And you can only be a political leader only if you have a godfather who has mentored you. And these godfathers teach the wrong behavioral principles of political leadership to our present day youths. And so you see, if we combine this trait leadership and behavioral leadership that has been manipulated by the African political leadership, we'll find out that we are in a big problem why youths of today are still finding it hard to be leaders of today in Africa. So,
Oh,
so this
that's
is this is where I will say that the fundamental problem lies in.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, Osaro, that was interesting. Welcome back, Mr. Oraka.
Yes.
I think you've come in just as Osaro was iterating an interesting point about the potential of the youth to become leaders that shape Africa, and what could be interrupting that unlikely is the mentality that we have as youth on what it takes to be a leader. And he's talked about the need of the belief that you need to have a godfather, you need to know somebody that's who's going to mentor you into your leadership position. And that these mentors are the same people who are mentoring you into the wrong thing when it comes to becoming that powerful leader. So I'll lend your voice. What do you think of this? And what do you think of the potential of our youth to shape this future of Africa and to become leaders in particularly here we're talking about political leaders. So yes, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have said there's no future for our youth. But I will be making an example with the type of youth I have in Nigeria. But then when I think about what is happening in Niger, in Senegal, then I think I should have a whole rethink. So my mind now is battling on how to reconcile the different dynamics. You see, in Nigeria, we had one young man, about 30 something, who became a governor of the state. But rather than have a mind of his own, basically it was like basically having a youth as a governor, but it was the same Buhari, the head of state, that was telling him what to do. Now, it's so unfortunate. The last speaker, Osaro, it's like he was taking some points from what I was going to say. When we begin to criticize our leaders for not giving way for youth to, reflect the dynamism that we have entered into, one becomes disappointed that these same youth are suffering from some sort of negative cognitive dissonance. So much so that they've not learned from anything. Our leaders who told us today is our turn to be leaders had good mentorship from the colonial master. I'll tell you that during the colonial masters, even though they were exploiting our goods, but our way of life here was good, was far better than what we have now. So these leaders that had good mentorship of leadership from our colonial masters, our railways were working, our transport system were working, our light. There was a time I was telling my kids that in this same country, there was a time we had light. We never knew anything like, hey, NEPA don't take light. We never had anything like that. There was constant 24-hour light. You get me? So where did this thing change? It was this same sense of leaders who chose to become their ethnic champions. Now, these youths, all they've learned from these leaders is the same thing that if they become leaders too, they too have to become their ethnic champions. Like in what's this in Kogi State, the governor was Yaya Bello. There is this notion that as a Christian, you cannot be governor of a state. I stay in the northern part of Nigeria, which is mostly Islam, not mostly dominated by Muslim in some states, though. Now, there are certain states that there are more Christians. There are more Christians than Muslims. But because they are in power, they will ensure that no Christian ever becomes governor, no matter what you do. So these same youths who should know that time has come to a point where we cannot begin to allow these primordial sentiments of religion and tribe, blind our focus of development, have not learned that it is time to move forward. We made an example of the AFCON match. They are succeeding because they are not focused on who scored the goal. I don't care whether it's a Muslim man that scored the goal or a Christian man. I don't care if it's a Yoruba man that scored the goal. All I just know that once somebody scores, every Nigerian, Muslim, Christian, North, South, Yoruba, Igbo, all of us punch the air and say, go! Because at that split moment, we are unbiased. We are not taken in by these things that divide us. Now, these youths have not learned. As a matter of fact, these youths have perfected these drawbacks we are blaming the leaders for. They perfected it. Sometimes on my page, sometimes I deliberately bring subjects of debate, and most times it turns into argument. You see, those of Yoruba extraction gather themselves in one place, and you see them debating on the basis that the person in question is my tribesman. So it doesn't matter whether what you're saying about this man is true or not true, I must defend him. You see, some people would protect this man because the man that is talking is not a Muslim. You probably are criticizing this man because you are not a Muslim. Therefore, because I sense a bias, I must defend my man with his wrongdoings because he's a Muslim man. So, as a matter of fact, you see this topic we are discussing now. I was so angry with this network fluctuation that cropped in. I'm so angry because it's a very, very, very sensitive topic. It's a very important topic. In fact, time will not be enough for us to exhaust the perspectives. You understand me? But however, the problem now is not even our leaders who do not want to live. The problem is the youths who have not realized that they need to take the destiny of their destiny in their own hands. Like what Senegal is doing. I'm made to understand that the fastest growing economy is Senegal, is the economy of Senegal. Why is that so? It's because their uranium, which was sold at a paltry sum of less than $1, is now sold at world price, about 16 times the normal price. And within months, country is now experiencing huge development. And if this continues, poverty will be reduced. But here we have in Nigeria, where we are the custodian of crude oil, and we don't refine a single drop of oil in this Nigeria. Now we take this oil out of the country, refine it outside, and then buy it back again. In other words, these people are coming and taking our oil for free. Because you have to buy the oil at a price higher than the amount you sold the price. If you buy crude from me for 100 naira and I'm buying the refined product for 200 naira, as a matter of fact, I'm paying you 100 naira to collect my resources. So it's a mentality that these youths have not been able to embrace. These old men have lived their lives. They already have grown-up kids, they have houses, they have cars. What they do, and he said the most baffling thing, you see one man will take 80 billion naira. 80 billion naira. Our highest denomination is 1,000 naira. If you calculate 80 billion naira in physical cash, this room will not occupy it. Will not take this room will not take it. One man will eat it. And the funny thing is that those who have been the youths who have been shortchanged by these thieves are the ones that will clap. They will clap and hail them. I like, sorry, you don't understand Hausa, but my sister too don't know. Here, I live in the north. I've stayed in the north for so long. I like Jazamaninka, I like Shikara Makakaru, I like, you hail them. Now, when youths begin to hail those who are stealing their collective patrimony, what do you expect? It's more stealing and more corruption. It is no, it is not a thing of surprise that our currency, which exchanged for about 600, 700 to $1. As I time this man came in, it's now exchanging for 1,500 naira. So it's so terrible. In fact, if you ask me, particularly in Nigeria, which they say is the giant of Africa, I don't know why is that so. If you ask me if there's any future with Nigeria or Africa, except people begin to copy from Senegal. But for people to copy from Senegal, it means you are going to invite the military in. So it's so terrible. In fact, attempting to discuss this issue, sometimes I feel like a hypocrite, because on one side of my mind, I want to say there's no problem. But then I see what is happening in Niger, what is happening in Senegal. Look, my sister, the problem we have in Africa and in these countries is simple leadership problem. We have old men that are so myopic that can't see the consequences of their action for the next 50 years. In fact, what they think is the next 4 years. After that 4 years, the next election. Take as much money as you can eat until your tummy becomes as big as a pregnant woman with a triplet, and then die. Then the children comes in again and do the same thing. It's so annoying, and that those who have greater vision for this country are not even given the opportunity to be in a place to take decision. We just had an election. We had 3 choices: Peter Obi, Atiku, and Tinubu. Can you imagine? It is the worst of them. An established drug baron, one who is certified not to have a certificate, one who has no name, has no origin, has no history. We don't know his father. We don't know where he is from. It is that same one is able to buy up the judiciary, buy up the system, corrupt the system, and now we are crying that the country is not working. How would you want somebody branded as corrupt, as a corrupt person, fix a corrupt system? This is not the case of those Chinese movies we watch in those days where they say only a ninja can destroy a ninja. It's so bad that, look, it's so bad. It has to take a madman with the fear of God to fix this country. I'm talking, sorry, sometimes I know we're talking about Africa, but I'm a Nigerian, so I can only see things from my own point. I can see things from my own standpoint. Look, my country is so bad. It's so bad that, look, before the end of this year, if you are eating snacks on the road, somebody will come and snatch it from your hand and eat it. That's where we are heading to. It is getting to that point, because you can imagine that the minimum I'll spend to feed a bag of rice that used to sell for 7,000 naira is now 84,000 naira.
Yeah.
Many pesos. Now, when you buy a bag of rice for 84,000 naira, for a country that has a minimum wage of 30,000 naira. So, how much percentage of the rice will you buy? You buy rice, you buy beans, you buy garri, you buy soup ingredient, you buy soap, you pay for transport, you pay for this thing. Now, our young girls in Nigeria don't even have enough money for their boyfriends to have makeups.
Yes.
It's so terrible. It's so sometimes, permit me, sometimes I just want to be jocular sometimes. But it's so terrible that if you ask me if there is hope, there's no hope, because these same corrupt individuals are in charge of the system.
You know, it's as you're talking about Nigeria, it's the same in Kenya. It's a universal problem. As you're talking, I'm nodding because, like, yes, what you're talking is an experience that I've lived now in the past, and it's an experience that is continuing to propagate itself. And I'm asking myself as you're speaking, then why is it that for us who vote people in, what are we actually looking for? What are they promising that we're saying, yes, this person is going to be the one to make a difference? And how do we then, as the people, because I still believe people have the power to make a difference, but there's something about the way we're being educated as people that is either having us very short-sighted, so we're making, what's it called, a decision that is short-sighted based on now, or we're not understanding the implications of the leaders that we're choosing. And
see, let me quickly add this one. Let me just quickly add this one. See, it's not as if we don't understand. It's not as if we don't understand. Look, hunger has no tribe. Hunger has no religion. So whether you are biased by religion or by ethnicity, when hunger comes, you will feel it. So it's not as if they don't know. But for some reason,
that's true,
there seems to be this haven that let me hide under this my religious bias. We just know, because I cannot help talking and making an example to this AFCON Nations Cup. I know that both Hausas, Igbos, Yorubas don't have any bias when they're watching that match. But why is it so comfortable that when it comes to politics, when it comes to that point that we choose people that we will mortgage our future with, we tend to now fall back to this baseless, retrogressive sentiment that has taken us nowhere. I tell you, here in Nigeria, there is somebody, no matter how you convince him that this man is going to fix this country, just because he's an Igbo man, they will not vote for him.
Yes.
Man, they will not vote for him. There is somebody in this country, no matter how you convince him that this is the man that will fix this country, just because he's a Christian, they will not vote for him. So where do we go when this religion and tribe has been embedded so thickly in our skin? You see, the worst of it is that you will see an educated man with a clean suit, an expensive suit, well knotted tie. But when he begins to talk, you find out that he's thinking the same way that hawker, that market woman thinks. And then you begin to wonder, how do we get out of this mess? Because the essence of going to school is to have the ability to rationalize. I know I could have done, but the impact of this thing is going to affect multitude. It's not good. Let me do it this way because it is proper for me to do this thing this way. We don't have people
Yeah.
that can do. Trust me, if this program were to be my page and people are calling in and commenting on the thread, you'll be shocked as to, in as much as we think we are being rational with our thoughts, or we are looking at from an objective point of view. If you go to the comment section, you'll be surprised at how young men will still be quarreling, despite the obvious fact that the people are suffering. Our prison cells will soon be filled with criminals. Kidnappings will be on the rise. In fact, criminality will soon be on a great. I just told you that a time will come, this my sister now and Vwaire will be eating snacks on the way. They will come and see it from her mouth and run away with it. We are getting there. Because I tell you that in this country, to eat now is not, to eat is a luxury. This is the best food that enabled our students go to school. The cheapest food that enabled to graduate peacefully. Gari and granite. It's no longer a cheap commodity. Gari, I don't know whether you eat gari in Kenya.
I know gari, and I don't have it here, but I know it. Gari and granite.
Gari and granite. This our sister now that is when she was in university, I'm sure she ate it. At all, if you don't get money, just put small gari, put granite, put sugar, you chop them, you go read your book. Those things are no longer available. They are no longer as cheap. It will take you about 500 naira to do a decent, 500 naira to do about 600-700 naira to do a decent gari and granite to soak.
Oh my goodness.
So where are we going like this?
This is
Now these leaders will not feel what you are feeling because no matter how exorbitant the price of commodity have risen, they have stolen so much billion to cushion it. This rice that I'm a bag of rice 84,000 naira. They've stolen billions of naira. They can still buy 100 bags, and the most annoying part of this thing is that when election comes, you've just went through suffering for 4 years. You just went through suffering for 4 years. They'll still come and be sharing tablet of soap for you, 2 cups of rice.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And they will not even give you respect. They'll be throwing it to you as somebody feeding fowl, feeding animals, and you'll be rushing to pick these things. Something you eat for one day, and you'll be paying for them. Hello, my bajel. Hello, bajel. I like just a manica. I'm wondering for
now, Mr. Oraka, we have somebody who is itching to ask you a question. So I will just bring him in so that he can ask the question. So just a moment. Let me bring him in. Okay, and this is Boniface. I see you have a question. We have comments coming in, so now I'll share what the audience is sharing as well. But go ahead, ask your question or make your comment.
Yes. The question was answered basically about young people not being able to come up and stand up. I'm from Kenya as Valerie, and the problem with leadership, with all leadership, is the young people are not coming up, and that's a very big problem. Various reasons, from corruption to young people just not being interested. I'm very young myself. In 2002, I was a baby basically, and those leaders that fought for our rights for the rights that we enjoy today, the right to vote for various leaders, are still here today. And one of the main reasons why we don't get them out there is because there's this young people don't have this. They have this appreciation of them, but they don't realize that it might be a detriment because they are fighting corruption in 2002, but we're in 2024. And a lot of Valerie can attest to that. Corruption in this day and age is very modernized. They are stealing in ways you're surprised. Even as a young person, you're like, oh, that is a new system. You get dollars in your laptop. That's what they say nowadays.
Your corruption is not up to that of Nigeria. Please don't compare your corruption to our own. Ours is the headquarters of corruption. Don't even go there.
Yeah, but it's
we have a president as a drug brand that sells cocaine as president, a cocaine dealer as president. So yours cannot be close to our own.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, in a case of some African countries, young people are just not coming up. They are not. It's a problem that is happening now because in Kenya, I'm not seeing young people really fight what is going on. they're really not putting up a fight. And the older generation who really can, they don't know what is going on, and it's an issue where now I it's where young people can't fight for it anymore. They are bought off easily. It was the question I was going to ask, why are young people easily bought off or easily influenced, but you've just answered it, just like
The reason why, hold on a second. The reason
I can hear you, Bonnie. I'm just giving our speaker a moment to respond. I think he's having a network issue.
yes.
But we'll give him a moment to respond. And I'd also just like to thank those who are sharing comments and questions on Facebook. Here within the StreamYard studio, it's also possible to share comments and questions. If you have any, as we wait for Luca to stabilize, please share them. We will come in and we will discuss them and get some feedback. So as we wait for our guests to come back, Eno, an opportunity for you here to comment on what we've spoken on so far. Any thoughts, anything you'd like to add on to what we've shared so far?
I'd like to say, Valerie, please, can you take a look at the comment sections and you want to attend to some of the comments there?
Yes, I'll look at
All
the
right.
comments.
So please pardon the noise.
Yes, let me let Eno jump in, then we'll go to the comments. Eno, please go ahead.
Not in here speak. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that glitch. So the topic and perspective is leadership and leaders of tomorrow. It is quite like the Mr. Oraka said, a very sensitive topic. This is why we are bringing it to the fore. We need to put ourselves in a position where we have what I would call worthy youths in leadership. There are so many factors that is making our youths not in the capacity to be leaders. Yes, they have what it takes. I think they have the grit. They want to do it, but the opportunity is not there for them. And there are so many reasons why this opportunity is not there for them. They are not properly educated the right kind of education to prepare them for leadership position. They are not having the right mentorship, because before we are able to the transition from one leadership generation to another, there should be a kind of mentorship that prepares the young leaders for the task ahead. We see that in the monarchy in the UK, where the heir to the throne, even other parts of the world, from what I gather, they send their heirs to the United Kingdom to prepare them for the throne. Before this time, there's a transition process of learning, of mentorship, of from one generation to another. So yes, our youth in Nigeria, our youth in most parts of Africa are not having this mentorship. They are not having good quality education. And then there's this stereotype, this thing that the youth are not ready. We need to tell.
Oh, I think now, Eno, you're the one with the network issue because you have frozen. So we'll give you a moment when you come back in to finish your thought. And as we do that, Mr. Oraka, there was a question that you were answering about why is it so easy to buy off the youth?
Yeah, you see, there's this weapon, there's this potent weapon this politician use, and that's hunger. Look, let me tell you, hunger is the most potent weapon that can buy anybody. Once you are put in a state of hunger and you believe that is your status, that is how you are meant to be. I live in the north, so I always make immediate example with me. In this place, you will see people say things like Allah yabaka kabamu, that God should give to you so that you give to me. Imagine the mind frame of somebody who says that give to me so that I give to you. So once somebody is already, brainwashed to believe that, well, where this man is, I cannot be there. This man is a governor, I can't be a governor. This man makes so much money, I can't be there. So to the point that I will say, Allah yabaka kabamu, God should give so that you give to me. God give to me so that I give to you. So can I go ahead? So I can't. The youth believe that I cannot be in a place unless I play ball. If I don't play ball, these are people with humongous money. Can you imagine me, a youth? Even though I'm not a youth, but a youth with maybe about 3 or 10 million naira in his account. You're talking about people with billions, trillions of naira. You can't match them. If you don't play ball, you are eliminated. So the only solution is for what happened in Nigeria, where we call the NSAS protest. Because no matter how many weapons you have, no matter how many fighter jets you have, once the youths come together and say enough is enough, that's all. How many youths will you kill? But even the one that happened in Nigeria, it was the same strategy that was used to quash it. They sold in religion and tribalism, and before you knew it, it all went dead. So it pains me because I have a 17-year-old boy. Very soon he will finish university and he will become a youth too. Although I don't intend that he has to depend on government. I pray to leave him legacies to fall back on. But be that as it may, he's going to interact with other youths. Now, if I don't coach him to prepare for worse environment, so whatever he makes, the children of those who are suffering from this bad system will disallow my children from doing whatever legacies I leave for them. In this country, you cannot travel safely. You can't travel safely in this country. You can't go to the bank and collect money and just work. In fact, you see, I talk about this thing, I feel so hot in me. So we can sit here and talk and talk and talk. You see the youth. I don't know what to. It's so painful that I look at the next Dubai. Dubai today is what this because they had a visionary emphasis on the word visionary leaders.
And yes, oh goodness, we have another short technical challenge. So we'll now wait for Mr. Oraka to come back because you are frozen in case you can hear me.
We had vision 2020. Those vision, the vision has become visions of churches. So we no longer have vision again. We have so many visions, there are no visions again. This is 2024. No politician will send vision 2040 now because you've done that. Because to the politician, he has no ability to see the consequence of his action for the next 5 years, 10 years. There's no operationable plan for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. They don't even see what Nigeria will be like in 50 years. These same politicians, they tell them that this naira will exchange for 1,500 naira in just 8 years from Vwaire's government. They will tell you it's a lie because they don't know. The politicians we have in Nigeria is just to eat, still to the point that when you arrest them, they tell you that snakes swallow the money. Well, where's the money you stole? Bring back our money. They say snakes swallow money.
Oh gosh, let me add now because we've got
monkey ran away with the money, and we laugh about it.
I hear you. And you know, it's an African problem. Some are coming out of it, but many of us are still having the same problem, same mentality. And this talk has really even helped me understand some of that mentality. And there are a few comments. I think we've got people who wanted to share something. Let me share those comments and we see if there's anything we can talk about in that. The first is from Adaeze Chioma. She says it will be hard for the youth to be leaders in Africa, especially if the current culture of godfatherism, the elders are always right and shouldn't be questioned, tribalism and religious bigotism, zero feedback system, and failure to change despite the constant failed results. It is so sad. And that's from Adeze Chioma. And then we have Peter Ambrose, who I believe is also from Nigeria, who says, Nigeria and Nigerians are not ready. Some Africans are ready, so those that are ready should move on. Even we, the Igbos, are not interested in Nigeria. All we are asking is the Nigerian government to release Nnamdi Kanu and give us date for referendum. So, Peter, I'm assuming you're a young audience member. And yeah, this is some of the opinions that we have at the moment from the people who are watching. I think they really do tie in a lot with what you've mentioned so far. And also with the question that was asked, why is it so easy to buy off the youth?
Unfortunately, the last comment has raised another dimension, which it's not tied to what you are saying, but then it tied to it a bit. You see, on the issue of separation of this country, look, nobody's going to country for you. Nobody's going to separate any country in Africa. That thought is a pipe dream, because the only country they separated, okay, let's attempt to separate Sudan, South Sudan and North Sudan. After separation, they still witness more fight in the region of those that said they were being marginalized. Yes. Those that cried that they were being marginalized, that they want to go. It is that same region now that we are witnessing too much fight. So the truth is that the solution is not breaking up this country, because the same man that is saying that they want to divide, they have some sort of agenda in that place is going to that. People like us, Eno would have been part of it, because she would know what I'm saying. They want to you already divide. Then the same infection in this same country that has led to you crying that you want to go. You've carried that infection in you to start another country with the same infection.
Yes. Oh,
the problem of Nigeria is not splitting. The problem of Nigeria is not splitting. It's just simple, honest, sincere leaders.
Yes.
That's all.
And there's this
guy that became president for just 3 months.
Yes.
There's this president that became president of Nigeria for 3 months. When Vwaire left, the vice president took over, and in 3 months, every Nigerians witnessed a change, witnessed path to a growth. But because they didn't want the credit to go to the vice president, who is a Yoruba man, they quickly brought in the man, as sick as he is. Even when you are sick, come and take over. And the moment he took over, things went back again. Even the way the country is, we can fix it in 2 weeks. It's just a sincere leader. Put the right people in the right places. Forget about even if everybody comes from one local government in Adamawa, put them there. It must not be your special advisor Yoruba, your chief security Yoruba, this Yoruba, NNPC Yoruba, everywhere Yoruba. That is what is killing this country. That's what is killing Africa. You have no trust in other ethnicities, only your own tribesmen. We are still way behind. If our minds still operate this way, we are still way behind. In fact, we are far from any meaningful development, because those that say we should break away, when they get that country, they are going to also do the same thing. The young man that is saying is says from they are going to do the same thing. The other minority will also cry that you are marginalizing them. So I don't support this break that they are saying, because there's no proof that they will do better than what we're already experiencing. Because it's a canker worm that has eaten deep into everybody's psyche.
And my co-host Osaro would like to add something to this discussion. So Osaro, jump in. What is it that you'd like to add or to reiterate from what we're talking about now? Osaro, you can unmute.
All right. Thank you so much, Valerie. And apologies that I cannot put on my videos now, up until now, okay? I've been listening to our guest, Mr. Oraka, who's been dishing out his thoughts very passionately. I want to say that it's very commendable. And you're someone that I've followed for some years now. So I'm not surprised with the kind of passion that you put into your ideology. So thank you very much, sir. I want to say
Thank
that
you.
I also want to come back to the systematic issue that I talked about. Um, I remember some few years ago, and Valerie and Eno can attest to this, in Malaysia, while we were there, and even recently, when it's time for an election, they do something that I wish we could also do in our continent of Africa, and this is it. The ruler, the current prime minister, if he is to contest in the same election, he has to step down during the election period. And there is a caretaker
Mm.
committee to administer the election. So he has no power during the election phase. And even when he's not contesting the election, he still has to step down. And that is a systematic thing that has worked to an extent for them. You find an almost flawless election and a leader is elected. However, bad or good the leader is, the system is good. And once the system is good, like I said earlier on, even if you put a dog or a goat as the leader, the system helps him to lead very well. All right. So now let's come back to the present state. I read through Adeze's comment, and I want to say, sadly, she's correct. It's very hard. And Mr. Oraka talked about this early on, to envision a Nigeria or an Africa where things will turn around 180 degrees for the way we want it when it comes to political leadership, because things have gone really bad. Things have gone south, and when there seems to be hope on the horizon, all of a sudden the hopes are dashed. So now, when it comes to political leadership, when it's time for an election, we should be having intelligent discourse, isn't it? I'm currently in the US for a while,
Mm.
and there is an election that is coming up soon, and everybody's having intelligent discussions. The youths are not talking about money, they're not talking about tradition or ethnicity, they're talking about intelligent discussions. And that is because they have a system in place to put intelligent people in positions of leadership. And we all know this popular public speaker, Patrice Lumumba, who did state at one time,
Mm.
perhaps I'm going to paraphrase this because I can't exactly remember, but he says, in Africa, those with ideas don't have power, but those with power lack ideas. And that's what's happening in Africa. So now, what is the solution after talking about all these problems? We see that there is a lot of mass migration currently happening in Africa. It has been there, but it is tripling. It's multiplying. You find a lot of people dying on the seas just to find their way to Lampedusa in Italy, or in Spain, or any part of Europe. And many people are doing this because they want a better life for themselves. Now, something that happens is that they find out that some people will find a better life, but many of them would get angry of the leaders that we have back home, and they might want to do something. Look at Rwanda. Just after while the genocide was going on, there was a group who were forming a guerrilla force. And it was that guerrilla force that stopped the genocide, of course, made up mainly of the Tutsis and Paul Kagame, who is the present president. It was a silent revolution that happened, and that is what resulted in modern day Rwanda.
Mm.
Currently, in many parts of Africa, example Nigeria, as Mr. Oraka talked about, there is a deficit of leadership, there is decadence, and there is moral deficit also. It is very hard for a correct and insightful revolution that will bring about the kind of leadership we're looking for to happen. All right. But there is a ray of hope. there are people who are opportune to witness how leadership should be. I was thinking, because I'm very passionate about Africa, back home, our countries and ethnicity, and I want to see us, I mean, up there when it comes to the um, um, global competitiveness. Now, I will say that the youths of today, many who are opportune to see how things are working in places that things are working because of social media, because of their exposure physically, someday rise up and say enough is enough and start that systematic revolution that the old people will not understand. When you talk about revolution today, the current crop of old leaders think about the barrel of a gun. They think about
Mm,
people rising up and forcing them out of power through the barrel of a gun. And that is why they put, just like what Mr. Oraka said, they get to leadership positions, political leadership, and put their people in the military to protect them. But I want to tell
mm,
you,
Hmm.
in the few years to come, the revolution we are seeking and talking about will evade these people because it won't come from the barrel of a gun. And even the
mm,
barrel of a gun will not be able to stop it. That is where it's leading to. And it is in the hands of these youths that we are referring to today. Now, that will happen, but how soon that will happen depends on the consciousness that we can create in the minds of our youth. And I believe this is one of the reasons we have today's program. So that is
mm,
the point I wanted to hit, that the fact that, just like Adesi said, it's going to be really hard, for us as youths to be leaders of tomorrow with the current setup in our countries in Africa.
mm.
However, the revolution is just beginning to happen. How soon depends on how fast we
Come.
can understand it. All right, thank you so much. All right,
I
yeah,
want
I'd like
to
to
go.
stop here.
I want to go. Osaro. Osaro. Hello, Osaro. Mr. Osaro.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, yeah, sorry,
Has he?
I was on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
I'm
you
here.
call me later? Call me after the show. Is that okay? Let's
Oh,
talk.
all right. Okay then. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. So for me,
Yes.
I have to leave now. Today we'll have to
Yes.
do this again sometime. Maybe then the network will be merciful for us.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words before you go? Okay. So he didn't have any final words, or he really had to go. We've gone a bit over time, but when you do watch this video, thank you very much to our guests for your contribution, for being with us through the talk. It's just been so insightful and amazing, and I'm thankful. I realize I have an echo somewhere, so I'm not sure where that is, but I hope it will clear up. Okay, so I'll come to my co-host. If you have any final words, now is the time to jump in. For Osaro, thank you so much for giving us something to really think about. That was a very insightful. So let me come to you, Eno. Do you have any final word?
All right, I do have a final word. It's nice having every one of you on this call. I'm going to leave with this, and it has to do with the constitution of our nations in Africa. There is need for a review, um, because we have situations where you say you can have a 7-year tenure and it is renewable. There's a word I saw in one of the constitutions. It can be renewed or something like that without a definite uh, cap to it. So people can just come in and expect to stay for 4 decades, like Paul Biya is doing right now, the Paul Biya of Cameroon, or what we have in Equatorial Guinea. So yes, we need to review. We need to know what is permissible and what isn't. And we need to be nations that are ready for the change we so desire. We need to be nations that are ready to get it right. When we benchmark with what we have in the other part of the world, we see these ones are serious about what they do. The president, the governors, they are not having the absolute authority. They are still under the constitution and the laws of the land. And it's an eyes to see that the leaders of Africa, some leaders of Africa in clause, are above the law. So they are the ones who can regulate the judiciary. And because of that, they can do whatever they want to do and get away with it. We need to work on that part of our constitutions as nations in Africa. So when we start from there, we will look at other aspects like mentorship, like providing the youth of today more education or befitting education that can make them quality leaders of tomorrow. So I think we would have more time on this topic next week. Valerie, I hope that's okay. We should have a second part of this topic next week because this is not conclusive. Thank you everyone for staying with us, and thanks for the shares, the comments, and the likes. I am Eno. It's nice having you with us on We Table It.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eno, for your comments. And yes, we look and see what we can continue with or discuss in the coming week. I'd like to share this, a comment that we have received from one of our audience members, David Odero. Let me read that out, where he says, the leadership we need begins with self-acknowledgement. It's high time that the youth take charge of their own future and begin looking at life in a totally different lens. It is not promised that the changes will be swift, but the earlier we start, the better, right? So thank you very much, David, for sharing that comment. It's impactful. I mean, it's giving us freedom to understand that we can start. And I think that's what's very important. The moment we begin, then a difference can be made. So our discussions need to begin to take shape into action. For you, Osaro, do you have any final comments that you would like to make?
Oh, yes, I would like to give a shout out to all those who have joined us in this broadcast. Without you, there will be no us. Big, mighty shout out to Adeze. Thank you so much. Appreciate your constant followership, and your comments are just amazing. Thank you for that. Peter, great to have you here. Everybody who has joined this live show, it's been a pleasure having you. We would like you to also populate our subsequent shows by giving a word around that there is a platform called We Table It that tables every matter that will bring our world closer to where we want it to be. So we would like you to be part of us as our family, and as family we'll tell every other person about where the sugar is. We believe the sugar is here at We Table It. Okay, and just a reminder, we also have our outlets, that's our platforms on YouTube. We've got a platform on LinkedIn and a platform on Instagram and on Twitter too. So very soon we're going to be putting our snippets on Twitter. So you may also want to, search us out on these platforms and follow us there. And of course, once in a while, you can visit our website, www.wetableit.com. We share some information there. You may also want to drop your comments. We believe that some of these videos that we share, some people watch it later on and they want to drop comments, but they are unable to do so because the live stream is over. But you can do that on our website. You can just go to our website, drop us a comment there. You may also want to tell us how good we are doing. All right, so we'll appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody. And to my super hosts, co-hosts, Valerie and Enor, who are looking mighty gorgeous, by the way. It's been a pleasure sharing this table with you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Osaro. And so from me, as we look at wrapping up today, I'd like to thank you all who have joined us. I've seen we've had people joining us on Facebook. We have people here in StreamYard. So I thank you very much for joining us. I thank you for your questions and your comments, and also for your encouragement. This has been a very passionate and interesting topic. And one of the fantastic things of it is being able to bring different points of view, which just add to the richness. And as Osaro mentioned, you can also add your comments because we are looking to learn and see how we can make a difference. So thank you very much. For next week, we will have another talk coming up. We will share information on our pages. It'll be at the same time on Saturday, and we'll share what the topic will be. And we invite you to join us. So for now, we'd just like to say thank you and to wish you a fantastic weekend. Go forth and enjoy. Thank you very much. And we hope to see you again soon. Okay. Bye from us all.